Hey, so today we're going to talk about how to graph different functions and then making sure that we can use our graphing calculator. So the first thing is just to determine what the difference is between these three functions. So this first one, we have f of x equaling 2x, which means 2 times x. The second one, we have g of x equaling x squared, which means we're taking our input and we would multiply it by itself twice. That's what it means to square it. And then finally, this 2 and this x is a little bit different. This is taking 2 and multiplying it by itself x number of times. So all of these have a 2, they all have an x, but they all look a little different. So then when we graph them, they should also look a little bit different. So old school, if we were doing this, just doing inputs and outputs, f of x equaling 2x, we're just going to put in these inputs, follow the process to see what our outputs are. So for the first one, we have 2x. So I'm going to do 2 input of negative 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Next one, again, I have a 2. I'm inputting a negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Have a 2. I'm inputting a 0. 2 times 0 is 0. Inputting a 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Inputting a 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So we have these inputs and we have our outputs. And another way we could do that is by graphing them. So an input of negative 2 gets me an output of negative 4. So we could write it as an ordered pair. Input a negative 2, output a negative 4. Input a negative 1, output a negative 2. Input a 0, output a 0. 1, 2, 2, 4. So something to notice is that this creates a straight line. Okay. With this second problem, we have the same inputs. We have a different function. We have something different. So we'll hopefully maybe get something different. So first we're going to input a negative 2, and we're going to square it, which means negative 2 squared, which would be positive 4. Input a negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. 0 squared is 0. 1 squared is 1. And 2 squared is 4. So again, we have this input or output. We could plot these as ordered pairs. So input a negative 2, output a positive 4. Input a negative 1, output of 1. Input a 0, output a 0. Input a 1, output a 1. Input of 2, output of 4. So this one seems to have a curve. So it is not a straight line. It kind of curves down and then back up. So when we get back from around Christmas time, we will deal with this kind of graph when we finish lines. Then the final one is this 2 to the exponent of an input. Okay, I'm actually going to start this way and work our way up because we're usually more confident with positive exponents. So 2, and I'm going to input an exponent of 2, which is just the same thing as 2 to the power of 2, which would be 2 times 2, which is 4. It's a lot of 2's. Then we have 2 to the input of 1. 2 to the first power is just 2. Then we have 2 to the power of 0. Now, if we don't know what that is, we can type this into our calculator. So if we get our calculator and we want to do 2, we want to do an exponent. So this little caret button is your exponent button, and it'll look like a little exponent. And we want to do the power of 0. We enter, and we get 1. Next, we want to do negative exponents. 2 to the power of negative 1. 2, little exponent, negative 1, which is 0.5. And 2, input of negative 2, so an exponent of negative 2, which would equal 0.25. Now, you guys in pre-algebra did exponents, but we'll do it again whenever we start graphing these things anyway. But to graph this, our inputs and our outputs, so negative 2.25, this is really just a rough estimate, so it'd be about like a quarter. Negative 1.5, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 4. So this shape is kind of curvy. I kind of call it like a curvy L compared to like a curvy U for this one. Okay. Now your graphing calculator will do all of this for you. So this right here is what we're going to talk and we're going to use to do these last 6 problems. So we are going to do this one, okay? And we're going to use our graphing calculator. So how do we insert a function into the calculator and view its graph? So what we need to do is first we need to find the y equals button. Then we will type in the function. And then we will hit the graph button. Okay, so after you write that down, we are actually going to do this example to kind of visualize it. Okay, so first we need to find the y equals button, which is in the top left. Okay, so we have all these colors. We have y1 through y9. Okay, so right here, guys, your graphing calculator doesn't put in f of x or g of x or anything like that. This is the same thing as y equals. So what we need to type into our calculator is x plus 5. So first we need to figure out, well, where is the X on our calculator, because our calculator does have an X button. And that button is right next to the alpha button. It's the X, it has a little T, it has a theta, okay? So when you type that in, you see X, and now we want to do plus 5. So this is what your calculator screen should look like. Now if we want to view the graph, we will go over all the way right here, and we will hit graph. Okay. If yours does not look anything like mine, make sure that if you have anything else in these, you just hit clear just to clear it all out. Right. And if your graph does not look like this, also hit zoom 6, and that will get you hopefully back to this graph. Okay, so this is the graph. It'll graph any of them for us. Okay. Now we want to make a rough sketch of the graph, but we should probably use ordered pairs to do that. So to get to a table of values or ordered pairs, what we will type in our calculators, we will hit the second button, and then we will hit graph. Okay. So we hit the second button, and right above graph, you see the word table. So we're going to hit graph, and this has our input and our outputs. Okay. So we can go up, we can go down. These are all of our inputs, and the blue line is in blue, so it has all of our outputs. So it's asking us first to find f of negative 10. Whoopsie. So we are going to go up until we find x negative 10, and our output is negative 5. Okay, now it asks us to draw a rough sketch of it. So I'm going to use my table of values and just plot as many ordered pairs as I can. So I look and I see that this is negative 8. And so in my table it says negative 8, negative 3, negative 7, negative 2. And then I can just put all of these ordered pairs down. Again, this created a straight line. Then it says to list 3 ordered pairs. Just use your graphing calculator and pick any 3. So you could pick negative 4, 1, negative 8, 3, negative 5, 0. Any of them would work. Now, your calculator is cool in the fact that it'll graph more than one graph at a time. You do not have to do this one at a time. You could actually go quicker. So now we're actually going to graph number 2 and number 3 at the same exact time. So we're going to go back to our calculator. Okay, we're going to go to our y equals screen. Okay, and now I want to graph something different, so I'm going to hit the clear button. Okay, so I want to type in negative x squared. So I'm going to type negative, hit the x button, and then there's 2 ways to do a square. You can either hit the x squared button, if you like that, or you can hit the caret button, which is again an exponent, and then just make it a square. Okay, negative x squared. Now I want to do a second one, so I'm going to go to the right. Okay, you can either hit enter at this point or hit down. And I want to graph another one, because why not? So now I'm going to do negative 1.5 with an exponent of an x. So negative 1.5 raised to the power of x. Again, these look exactly like what this looks like. Again, I am typing in my calculator this and this. Okay. Then when it looks like it's ready to go, I will hit graph just to visualize it. So I see a blue line, blue curve, and a red curve. Okay. Now, I want to make a rough sketch, but I need ordered pairs or a table of values to do that. So I hit second graph. And now I have my inputs, I have my blue outputs, and I have my red outputs. So all you have to do is just make sure you match. This is blue, blue, blue. Okay. So it is asking me right now to find f of 5 with this first function. So I need to go and find 5. And I get f of 5 being negative 25. Okay. Then it says to list some ordered pairs and to just draw a sketch. So I'm just going to have the ordered pairs that I could fit. So I can fit negative 2, 4, negative 2, negative 4, excuse me, negative 1, negative 1, 0, 0. Again, I'm just looking at my table of values. 1, negative 1, 2, negative 4. Okay. So again, just a rough sketch would look something like that. Okay. And you could just write 3 of those ordered pairs. Okay, so for this one, again, I graphed it at the same time. So it's the second graph. And so I'm looking for red, red, or in my table, the red. Okay, it's asking me right now to find f of 0. So here's my input of 0. My output in red is negative 1. Okay, so now it says to find some ordered pairs that you could write down. Okay, again, there are decimals. We're just gonna have to make the best guesstimations that we can. Okay, so 0, negative 1. Okay. We have negative 1, negative 0.667. So negative 1 right there. Okay. Again, it's not perfect. Okay. For 1, it's negative 1.5. For 2, it's negative 2.25. For 3, we get negative 3.37. So that one's not the best. More like right here. Okay. Oh, that would be 2. Whoopsie. 2.25, 3.37. 4 is negative 5.06 here. And 5 is negative 7.75, something like that. So again, this is a rough estimate. It is not perfect, but I'm just taking my table of values and making it a graph. Okay, so what I want you guys to do now is to try these 3 problems and just make the rough sketch. And again, finding their inputs, using the graphing calculator to use your inputs to find your outputs, and then write some ordered pairs. And then the answer key will be on the Google Classroom. All right, bye.